So I'll start recording anytime now. Are we ready to crack on, boys?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. God, are we actually starting on time? Oh, that's a new thing for me, that. Hello and welcome to the Manchester is Blue show. It's Monday, so it can only mean it's the Monday night show. City victorious again this weekend in Guardiola's 500th game as a manager. So that works out to his 200th win as a City boss in his 273rd game in charge. Lads, we are now unbeaten, 27 matches, winning 24. Longest, so it's their second longest such run in history after 28 games between April and December 2017. We're not doing too bad at the moment, are we, chaps? Let's face it. And as Tibbs, you mentioned quite right on our Discord chat, the best form of defence this weekend was most certainly attack. So we did very well this weekend, our boys Diaz and Stones. Tibbs, you can lead the way with this, pal. How do you think you got on this weekend?
I mean, it was great to see Ruben score his first for us, I think.
Yes, correct.
And Stones just bagging another one. At this point, he's I don't remember what it was. Like I think I saw a stat this weekend. Like the two of them have scored more goals than they've conceded when they play together.
Yes.
Incredible.
+2, I think.
+2, is that right? That's bonkers.
Yes.
That's bonkers, that, isn't it? Oh, what a stat that is. I also believe that John Stones has scored more goals than Paul Pogba. That also made me smile this weekend as well. So we've extended our winning run to 20 matches, which is pretty unprecedented, isn't it, Dan, from what we were talking about back in November time. So as everyone will know, we're pretty clear. We've moved 12 points clear thanks to goals from Stones and Diaz, and obviously United and Leicester dropping points this weekend. Cloud, what was your viewpoint of the game? How do you think, where was the game won?
Against West Ham, I was actually out, so I only got to watch the highlights. So I'm not going to try and do a breakdown of a game that I haven't actually won. But from what I did see, it was just fantastic to see that we're actually able to capitalise now and bring our defenders in. There was one time where it felt like if the front three didn't score, we were really fighting to bring something out. And there were shades of that earlier this season. But the confidence that Ruben and Stones have to actually get in there now, hopefully is going to be a turning point for something we've lacked in for some time, which is set pieces. Seeing them getting into the box and taking those opportunities when they can, I think is going to be huge for us because you can't always rely on the forwards. I felt that when I watched Sterling against Borussia Mönchengladbach, I felt it looked pretty run down there as well. And it's helping just to change the dependence on a front three. But you know, it's been great recently seeing Aguero get back out in the field as well. Just to see him actually playing games now, I hope it's going to be like a big boost to our attack.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think he had a bit of a difficult start with Dan. We spoke about this on the watch along, didn't we? That I think we both agreed that it stunted us a little bit going forward with the three forwards not having as much flexibility in movement. What was your thoughts on the final whistle from that, Dan?
Exactly what you summed up there. I was having a word discussion with City Dave on a previous podcast a couple of days ago about the thought of Sergio going back into the starting lineup. And you made the point during the live, Tom. Sergio, in this particular City team, the way we're performing along this run of 20 wins, 19 previous, obviously, this team relied heavily on everyone individually to step up in different roles rather than having a single focal point for the defenders to mark. And that, for me, is the reason it was a more difficult game than it needed to be against the Hammers, because we have a way of rotating that front three, that front six, if you want to include the midfield. Rodri can play a bit deeper and a bit further upfield, whichever way, which then keeps the opposition defence guessing. You know, West Ham were able to sit back during that game and pick out Sergio Aguero, and then Guardiola made it difficult for himself because Mahrez can't play out on the left. He won't set into centre forward because Sergio's there, and Sergio can't play out on the right or the left, and Ferran Torres was playing out on the left, who can only really play a striker on the right. So he made it difficult for himself. But overall, you know, it was a tough game, and champions win difficult games. That they really stump it out, and even better champions win when both our top on form centre backs come in, and especially John Stone scoring a centre forward style goal, first touch, banging at it. Happy days.
Oh, but difficulty is a word I'm going to pick up from what you're talking about there. West Ham had a real physical presence about their team. I think I joked with you about 20 times about Antonio in the first 20 minutes, his size compared to Mahrez, and he was an absolute monster. I personally think we were lucky to get all 3 points. I think in seasons gone by, particularly last season, I think we would have been lucky to have scraped a draw with that one, that game. I think West Ham were really well set up, well organised, and absolute credit to David Moyes, who for me is, if Pep goes and wins the quadruple this season, he'll win manager of the season. But I think David Moyes is going to have David Moyes has got a real opportunity there to have that crown this year for what he's done. He just needs to finish in that top 4 spot, and I think he'll be in it with a very good chance of getting it. Tibbs, from watching the game and seeing West Ham, where do you think we struggled against this team? Was it the physicality, or was it just the organisation that they brought to the game?
I think there's a couple of things. I think it's partially related to the lack of sharpness on our side as well, because if you look at the starting lineup, we have seven changes from the past few games, and I'm of two minds on this. On the one hand, I think if there was any game when you should rest a couple of players ahead of a continued difficult schedule of playing every 3 days, twice a week, on paper, this could have been it. So I can kind of see the point of, let's leave Raz on the bench, let's leave Cancelo on the bench and all the others. Let's bring Ferran Torres. On the other hand, though, we haven't had Sergio Aguero start a game in quite some time. Can't quite remember how long. Kevin is still lacking some sharpness, as I think we've seen in the first half especially. I don't remember the last time I saw Ferran Torres start a game. It must have been in the Champions League a couple months back, and so I think it's partially related to that as well. And then also, like, credits to West Ham and David Moyes. They're doing a great job. One of my coworkers and friends is actually a West Ham supporter, and him and I were just chatting. And every time throughout the season that they've beaten a bigger team from the Big Six on paper or anything like that, it's. I mean, you want to support the underdog in a way. Credits to them.
I've always been a massive underdog supporter. I love it. I love that's why I love the FA Cup. I'm a massive fan of the FA Cup, and it's a competition that I love purely because of what the underdogs bring to it. And Antonio, funnily enough, became the first West Ham player to score home and away against City in a league season since Ian Dowie in 1995-96 season. So that's a cracking statistic. I love that. And
Antonio is wonderful, isn't he?
He was brilliant. Yeah, he was great. Do you know what? He has the build of Traore, but obviously Traore's had a bit of a mare since he was linked with City this season, hasn't he? But I thought Lingard was good as well. I thought Lingard looked sharp and he looked really up for it, and he just needed that bit of a lease of life that he's got from leaving United. To be fair, I'd play better if I left United as well, but that's a different story. And for me, it's. You know, I'll go again. I think we were lucky. I thought they brought everything to it, and I'm gonna pick up on one player that you mentioned there, Kevin De Bruyne. Matt Sharpness. Dan, we said, didn't we? He just didn't look right. And Cloud, I'm going to come to you for this point. Is it down to Matt Sharpness, or is there anything else underlying there with Kevin? Because he just needed that one moment of magic that brought us the goal from Diaz. To help cement him, help him get more assists, to hopefully break that record this season. But I don't know if he will actually this season break it, because I don't know if he's going to come to the sharpness quick enough in the next couple of games to get that. I'm a bit worried about Kevin, to be honest. What's your thoughts? Would you rest him? Or can you rest Kevin De Bruyne?
I think we absolutely can, especially in the Premier League. You know, I hear people say we need to field a good team out against Wolves, and I think, well, we've got the gap in the Premier League. I know Pep's not going to think that way, but from my point of view, it's important not to burn these players out for the long period. And we've seen that happen with a lot of players already. We saw, Laporte was out for quite some time. We've had Aguero out for some time. We've had De Bruyne out for quite some time before. And it's important to get that rotation in, and especially with our midfield now, between Gundogan, Bernardo, and Kevin De Bruyne, it's ridiculous. Every single one of them deserves to play. Of course, only 2 of them can. I don't think he's too worried about the assist record, because I do truly believe him when he says, I've already broken it. Of course, with last season and some of his assists getting taken away. But I think it's difficult for him because he wants to play. He wants to play in a team that are thriving. And maybe he's come back just a bit too soon. But, the problem that we have as well, and why I think Pep will play him, is since about Arsenal, I've not felt going forward that we're very threatening at all. I mean, we completely stumped Mönchengladbach. Arsenal didn't really have a chance at us, but we just couldn't seem to get up there. We didn't have that. We haven't got that fire going forward.
Dan, can we solve that with Haaland or Malin? Is your tip to come in, isn't he? But I noticed you're talking about a few other players this weekend as well.
Well, there's a whole host at the moment. For me, the way I see the current crop of players and the current tactics, if Pep wants to carry on these tactics as well, remember, this is the first season he's really throwing them out, keeping teams guessing and stuff like that. He's going to have to go for a striker that's got the bit of Jesus about him, but obviously he's a hell of a lot more clinical in front of goal. But who's going to be a more recognised forward, who can play across that front line, so that at least he can still rotate it about. Because I still go back, and it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but to go back to what Cloud was saying about Kevin De Bruyne needing a bit match fitness, I think it's half that and half the tactics don't suit him. Because if you think about it, Kevin De Bruyne has been out for, 8 weeks? Has it been 8-9 weeks now? Every single one of those players, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, Sterling at times, Phil Foden especially, have all stepped their game up, all to a level playing field. They're all trying to beat each other off the park. Gundogan, hell of a lot more than most. But that's without Kevin De Bruyne, and there's a lot of flair, there's a lot of movement. I think we just keep that team, that focalness of just a rotation, that movement in the midfield, and then feed Kevin De Bruyne back into it. So then at least those players like Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden especially were missed for me on Saturday. The energy and the pace in that midfield to allow West Ham to not come out and then get Kevin De Bruyne in those positions where he can whip a ball in. I think he was closed down too much. He was trying to do those quick passes, and he to go back to what Cloud was saying, not match ready yet for me. I think he just needs a couple more games coming in for another 30, 35 minutes in the second half or something like that, just to feed his way in, get a bit more energised, and then I think he'll be all guns blazing. I don't think we'll miss a striker as much.
I think knowing Pep, I think we can all say he's going to start tomorrow night against Wolves. I think he will. I think he just will start Kevin De Bruyne because it is Kevin De Bruyne. An interesting statistic, Cloud and Dan, what you were saying there. One thing I just had to have a quick look up on about our non-ruthlessness in front of goal is City have only got one player in the top 10 of goal scorers, and that's Ilkay Gundogan on 11 goals. That says so much about, we're 12 points clear at the top of the league, and we've only got one player who's in the top 10 of top goal scorers, and that's Ilkay Gundogan with 11 goals. And next up is Raheem Sterling with 9 goals.
Give it a few more games and John Stones will be up there the rate he's going.
Listen, absolutely. I'm looking at it now, and the next one after Sterling is Riyad Mahrez in 6 goals. So we've not got one player that's out and out goal scoring for us at the moment, which is bizarre to see. But like you said, Dan, everyone's kind of raising their game to almost get above get away from the Kevin De Bruyne need. So it's an interesting statistic, that.
And to add to that, I think that's another reason why Kevin was a bit not lacking, but stuttering a bit, because if you think especially to the first half, I think it was Cloud or Tibbs that mentioned it before, that first half, he wasn't firing on all cylinders, but he was seeing a hell of a lot of the ball. Pre-De Bruyne, everybody was seeing a hell of a lot of the ball, not just one player. And I think there was just a bit more attention to get the ball to Kevin to maybe start an attack rather than the whole team focaling. Whether that's what Pep intended or not is a different matter, but it's certainly what I picked up, especially in that first half.
Well, as Mad Stag said on Discord, he wanted us to talk about our attacking game and why has it been so light recently, and I think we've addressed that really well there. The question is, if we bring in an out-and-out striker like the Haalands of the world or somebody on that sort of ilk, will that detract away from the rest of the team going for goals and scoring, or will it just add on to what we've got already? Would you go for you, Adam? What's your thoughts on this in relation to, do we need to bring a striker in to get the goals, or from your point of view, are we happy with the attacking threat that's there already?
No, I think we do need to bring someone no matter what. I would be interested to see the statistics for this season. I'm assuming that we're one of the teams that scored with the most amount of different players. I wouldn't have the stats for that, but I'm assuming that I think Chelsea is another team that may rank pretty highly in terms of like how many different players have scored for the team this season. But I would assume that along with that, we would probably be at the top of this list. I'm happy with the diversity and the fact that the threat can come from any player in the team. I would be more reassured if we have a striker that could get the job done. Obviously, sharp Aguero, prime Aguero would work in that sense, because you knew that you could expect the threat from City, from anyone, but Aguero would be the number one coming up in your mind. And I would like us to get back to this, just on the off chance that in the future, maybe Gundogan isn't able to score, or some of the midfielders are not able to get it done. Just want to make sure that a striker can get this job done.
Yeah, I agree. I think a striker would be more, would bring a lot of assists to the game as well. I think, having the shots and other players catching onto the back of that, or getting in the right position to make the right passes. I think a real fox in the box striker is not just good for the goals, but also good for assists as well. And I think that's why they're so highly rated. It's an interesting one, that. Cloud, what's your perspective on our attacking threat?
Well, just to go back into something that Tibbs said, where he was talking about, City scoring with the most amount of players. I thought I'd just get up some stats really quick. Although I'm sure that is probably true, and Chelsea being up there as well, even though we rotate very well, we have a lot of players. There's really no one, except I can think of maybe Foden, who's probably scoring at a rate that you would expect in a City squad. I mean, just looking at Sterling, he's scored 9 goals in the Premier League in nearly 1,900 minutes. Mahrez has scored 6 goals in the Premier League in nearly 1,400 minutes. 3 of those were in one game against Burnley. Jesus has scored 4 in the Premier League in 1,200 minutes. So no one there has really got like a great sort of goals to minute ratio. And I know that's like very skewed in a very small sample, but for a team like City, it shows quite a lot. Whereas I'm going to use United just because I think they've scored the most goals in the league at the moment, or they're very close with us. If you have a look at their players, I'm thinking like Rashford, they're converting quite a lot. Even though it's with single players, they're managing to create, and I believe that our players have got so much more talent. So I don't know what the issue is. What I would like with a striker, and I think I said this last week, I want a striker, if they're going to come in, I'm not too bothered who they are, because I trust the board. We've got more targets right than we've got wrong in recent years. But I want someone with a Diaz mentality who's going to demand more from the other players. Nothing frustrates me more when we're wasting chance after chance after chance, and Jesus is just there smiling, putting his hand up, shrugs, "I'll get him next time," sort of thing. I want someone to demand more from the players and say, look, we're not messing around here. We're trying to win titles. Because until we've got someone who's doing that, how can we possibly sit here and talk about winning a quadruple?
It's so true. Yeah, well said. That works nicely into Diaz scoring his first goal, becoming our 19th different scorer this season. So we haven't got the out-and-out goal scorer, but we have got a team of players who are scoring, which is fantastic. I don't know how many times we need to put superlatives down for Diaz and what he's brought to the team, but for me, I might have to go on record here because I've been thinking a lot about this in recent weeks. He's 23. He could go on to lead City as a captain potentially for the next 9 or 10 years. If he carries on with the impetus he has the opportunity to be Sheikh Mansour's greatest signing for City. I genuinely think from what he's brought to us this season, if he carries on and brings that winning mentality to him, the back four, the midfield, and the general team around him, I certainly think he could outshine the Companies, the David Silvas, the Agueros, the Yaya Toures of the world. What do you lads think about that? Am I putting too much pressure on him there for that, or do you think he's capable of doing that?
I mean, again, considering the impact that he's had so far, he's only 23. He's literally the youngest member in the squad. Well, one of the youngest members. I think only Ferran and Phil might be younger than him. It is wild. And just thinking back to the beginning of the season when we were still looking for a new defender, and we were thinking about maybe Koulibaly at Napoli and other places, and other players as well. I don't think it could have turned out any better than it has. So I would agree with you. There's this potential there for him to be one of the greatest signings in the modern City history. Yeah.
I'm just sitting back thinking that is a massive weight on somebody's shoulders to think about, isn't it? But I suppose when they're doing so well and they've come with a price tag and they've come with a mentality and they've come with the way he's changed what we needed. And I like the way City have gone about the work in signing Diaz. Yes, we spent a lot of money on defenders. Yes, some have worked. Yes, some have definitely not worked. But I feel like with Company's successor, we've done it in the right way. We've not rushed out and signed. Who was it? Koulibaly. What was the other guy? Umchenko. What's his name?
Kunde.
Yeah. There's a few others knocking about that. You know, it just wasn't right. Something just wasn't right with those signings, whatever it might be. And we selected Diaz and gone and done the business there. So we can't really argue with that. I just want to come on to the final question from Wild Fig on Discord. He's putting the detached being thrown at Pep was that he's never rebuilt a team. Are we seeing this happen? It's a good question, that Wild Fig, and I'm gonna kind of spin this on its head a little bit. I don't think he's rebuilding a team. I think he's rebuilt the way he's looked at the tactics within the team. I think one of the reasons why we did have a stuttering start and we had a bad season last season was because teams had cottoned on to the way we play and the way the team was built. And I think that he rapidly needed to understand and change how teams looked and played against us, and he's done that. And I think that's why we're so dominant this year, because basically Pep has reworked and remanufactured the way City attack games, and the master plan has been rebuilt. And I don't necessarily think he's rebuilt the team well. I just think that he's remastered the way City play, and it makes me think, am I right in what I'm saying here? And the only way we'll know that is when this team comes to its natural ending and we go to a slippery slide again and somebody else wins the league again and City aren't the best for a season. The season after that, if Pep's still there, is there going to be another change of the guard in relation to the tactical change? And from this, I'm sure City will if we carry on and go on and win the league and win more trophies this year, we'll do it for the next couple of seasons, and again we'll start slipping again, and we'll get the silly losses, etc., etc. But then it'll be up to Pep again to rebuild the tactics going forward. Dan, what's your thoughts on that?
100% agree. I liked what he said at the beginning of the season when he was talking about his tactics, saying he needs to adapt the team so they don't run as much. And I think personally what he means by that is the passing options. We've had the passes, we've had the runs in behind, we've had the Kevin De Bruyne world-class assists and stuff like that around the back of the defence. But the one thing that I've noticed, especially in this 20-match winning run, more than anything, is the amount of options each player has. Before you take the left-back position, standard formation is a back four. We've got a left back involved, but the way Pep's implemented, as soon as the game kicks off, he's eradicated the need for a left back because we play Cancelo and Zinchenko, what I've noticed, infield to create more depth in that midfield, allowing more men to push forward without the need to run as much, because we're pushing the team back with having a stable line in Rodri, Cancelo's in Zinchenko, like I said, Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne dropping in, picking up them balls, and the players are already further ahead for him to find. And I think that's the reason we've managed to not obviously score massive amounts of goals, as we've already discussed, but still get the goals because we've got men in those positions allowing our backline to push further up. But in the reverse end, where at the back, because we've got that free, the way he's implemented the likes of Kyle Walker to use his speed, stay back, especially this season on set pieces, is allowing the two big lads, whether it be Laporte included in this, to get into the box, but have the pace at the back to allow the players to run in behind, stop the ball coming, and get those players back to form a proper defence. Hence the reason I think our defence is doing really well. So the way Guardiola's mind works is it's second to none. You know, a lot of people have the discussion whether he's the greatest manager of all time or whether that's still Ferguson. Put Ferguson and Pep in the same era, you would have seen Pep in the longevity of Ferguson's career. You would have seen Pep having a hell of a lot more success than Ferguson in my eyes. Just the way he implements the squad to work together as a team and not focus on one player providing the support and one player finishing, and defence included in that. It's just mesmerising to see. It's absolutely brilliant, and I've never seen anything like it.
I don't think Pep will really get the plaudits over Ferguson until Pep retires from football, and then only then can he really be represented up against it. Because the old argument for Ferguson versus Pep is, Ferguson won loads of trophies and won 2 Champions League. So the response to that is, well, actually, Pep's won 2 Champions League and he's only been managing for 12 years and won loads of trophies. So it's kind of a bit of a mute point.
The other side to that is many opposition fans especially will turn in and goes, well, he's come into teams that are already top of their leagues and stuff like that. This season, if we go on to win 3 trophies, no one can argue that there hasn't been necessarily a rebuild, but there's been a reimagination in the whole club, whether that's the squad or whether that's just the whole club basic, the training regime and everything like that. It has been a rebuild job in that circumstance, and to rebuild it from the sorry state we were last season, where you could look at that team and say, who were the leaders? Who were the leaders? Since now you can pick 9 out of the starting 11, and you could say he could easily be captain for the day and stuff like that. Just the whole team just re-energized, reformulated. It just clicks.
Absolutely. No, I can't really argue with that point. And it's going to be exciting to see. We're talking about 3 or 4 trophies here, lads. We've not won one yet. Let's not remind ourselves. Dan, it's not over yet, mate. It's not over yet, pal.
You'd be doing that on the 95th minute when we're about 5-0 up.
I will, and I don't regret a minute of it. Let's move on. City next in action in 24 hours. we play Wolves Tuesday night, 8 o'clock kickoff, Premier League. So we're coming into this. We're potentially looking at Bernardo Silva, Raheem Sterling, Cancelo, Laporte could return after being rested against the win on West Ham. Cloud, what's your thoughts on as we head into the Wolves game? As we stand at the moment, Wolves have won 7 points against City since returning to the Premier League in the 18-19 season, and joint best record against any team in that period. So, they're a bit of a bogey team, Wolves.
I mean, that's fair enough, but it had also been years since we won at Anfield, and we've done that this season as well. So throw those stats out the window. That's scaring me, but I would. I mean, at the moment, because of the league that we've got, I don't want us to get reckless, but because of everything that's coming up, because you can't predict injuries, I would like to see players like Varane get back out. I know I'm saying that, but he was clicking really well, didn't get a lot of game time. And now he seems a bit rusty. I'd like to see him get in, build some more chemistry. Also, I think Sterling's looked really lackluster recently. He's just, he's missing that sharpness. He really is for me. He's scored a few goals recently, but they've been goals of good chance that it's come into. I'm not going to say it didn't work for them, but they fell quite fortunate to him. I think of the Mahrez assist at Arsenal and things like that. So I think he needs some rest. I think he's been overworked a little bit. This is going to be hugely unpopular, but I'd like to see Mendy come back in. Maybe if not this game, maybe one in the future. Just because when you're competing for all these trophies, if we have an injury to Zinchenko or we have an injury to Cancelo, I don't want a last-minute Mendy coming in. If we drop points against Wolves, we're fine. We've got such a lead. I'm not saying be reckless, but we need to involve those players a bit more. Similar when Aki is fit again, he needs to get involved in the team a little bit. So at the moment, I'd like to see a nice little bit of rotation. And even if De Bruyne isn't in the squad against Wolves, I think that's probably good as well. We've got enough players to rotate, but we need to keep the momentum going. But we need to involve as many people as we can as well, and not just rely on the same starting 11. Because if someone gets out for a meaningful period of time, come the Champions League, that could really turn bad for us like it has done before.
So you're a big advocate of the rotation for tomorrow night, and I do like your point there. I don't want to go into a final against Spurs or a vital Champions League game with a couple of injuries where we're having to play players that haven't had as much game time. So squad rotation is going to be key. What's your thoughts, Tibbs?
So obviously this past game we've had 7 changes, and I can't underline this enough. 7 feels like a lot. So I'd like to see something maybe in between. Like, we don't need to play the A team necessarily. This is Wolves. They've, I think over the past 5 games, they have 2 draws, 2 wins, and 1 loss. Jimenez is still out. They sold Jota. They sold Doherty a while back. And so I'm not too worried about this team anymore, the way that I was maybe 18 months ago. So I think we could get away, similar to what Cloud said, with doing some rotation. Love the suggestion of Mendy, of course. Would be nice to give him some time, and yeah, maybe we can shift things up a little bit. We know that they play a lot on the counter, so if we get the right type of team to match this and stay in control, I'm very happy with it. Would love to see Laporte. Yeah, I'm honestly open to Pep Roulette here, but just don't want to be taking too much risk with injuries, and I think we'll be happy.
Oh, come on, Dan. Let's have your viewpoint of this.
Energy. That's what we need. We need energy for me. We definitely need if Foden, Sterling, or Bernardo Silva in the game. They've got a strong midfield in Moutinho and Neves. Those two link well. I know Moutinho's knocking on a bit in terms of a player's age nowadays, but he's still very capable to cause some pain in our back line. But their front three is still fairly dominant for a team that's languishing in the bottom half of the table. That Pedro Neto, he is stepping his game up nearly every single match he plays, and he's an absolute phenomenal young footballer. I think he's still only 20 years old or something like that. He's so pacey as well, so he's another one that one of our back lads are going to have to keep an eye on. I agree with Tibbs that I don't want too much rotation. I'd like to see, like I said, one of those 3 coming in. I can't remember, I think it was Cloud who said it about Ferran Torres, or maybe Tibbs on too. I'd love to see him start again, but on his natural right side. The lad has got potential. He was just, left midfielder's not for him. And like we were saying before, he's been out for a long time, not through injury, just been sat on the bench waiting for his moment. And unfortunately, his moment came in a position that's not his. So I think a bit of pace behind the back line of Wolves, and I think we'll see it out as long as we contain that midfield. Definitely 100% believe Rodri should be in that midfield over Fernandinho personally, just for a bit more strength as well as height. But of course, a lot of people have the 50-50 argument between Fernandinho and Rodri. I personally would have Rodri. But yeah, just a little bit of rotation, but we need energy and pace for me to beat Wolves.
Perfect. I couldn't put it any more. Right, so what we'll do is we're going to leave this short and sweet. We'll get some score predictions. Come on, Cloud, what are you thinking?
3-0 City.
Love that. Yes, I love that. Tibbs?
I'll be conservative and do 2-0 City.
Dan?
3-1 City.
You think we'll concede, do you?
Yeah, I think he's got that little bit of street. It's like I said, Pedro Neto's one of them we've got to keep an eye out for. He's their most informed player at the moment. If we can keep him quiet, I think we'll be able to see it out. But
He seems like an absolute steal, Neto, playing for them, and I just can't see him playing for them for much longer than this season. I think he's got higher aspirations in life, hasn't he?
yeah, definitely. He's like I'm sure he's only 20. There was a perfect stat by one of the commentators the other day. He still lives at home and gets a lift in from his mum. He's that young, so you know he plays his heart out on the pitch. So that's a football player with determination, if any, and still core to his roots.
I love that. Right, well, we'll leave it there, lads. Thank you very much for joining us. Big game tomorrow night, lads. As I say every week, I think it's every other day. Massive game tomorrow, lads. Massive game. Let's make it 21 wins, shall we?
Definitely.
Oh, it sounds a bit
go.
hard saying that. Right, lads, thanks for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you soon.